Racism for societies is basically what a virus is for computers. As we all know, viruses prevent computers from working properly. Similarly, racism undermines the well-being of a society. Now, I would like to give you a moment to think about what racism means to you. How would you define racism? Maybe you have experienced racism. Perhaps it did not make you feel good. Racism is simply an individual or a group of people being racially discriminatory against another individual or a group of people. For example, this could be not hiring someone because of their race or ethnicity, or not socializing properly, being rude to someone, maybe even violently, because of their race or ethnicity. Hi, I'm Sait, and I'm here to talk about racism and Gen Z. Racism is something that is important to me. I care about racism, and there's two main reasons why. First, I see how racism affects my peers and Gen Z, and I don't like it. Racism has made Gen Zers have suicidal thoughts as well as depression, and this is only two examples. Another reason is that I'm just interested in discrimination and racism in general. It's something that I'm passionate about. That's why I wrote an article about racism. I'm on TED Talk right now about racism. I'm doing an exhibition on a specific form of discrimination. Racism and racial equality is a key social issue to Gen Z because so far, Gen Z is ethnically and racially the most diverse generation. Kim Parker, the director of social trends research at Pew Research Center, who has a bachelor's and a master's degree in many topics such as generational change, and Ruth Ilganik, senior researcher at Pew Research Center, who has a master's degree in public policy, wrote an article about the biggest issues Gen Z is facing. And guess what? Racism made that list. Now, as you can see, racism is one of the biggest, if not the biggest issue Gen Z is facing. And even many millennials agree. Gen Z values and acknowledges interracial marriage as well as racial diversity, most likely more than the majority of millennials and older generations. Now, Gen Z have been trying to spread awareness, trying to take action by spreading awareness of racism on social media, especially Instagram. On Instagram, I have seen people post posts about racism, hashtagging it something like Stop Asian Hate or hashtag BLM. For instance, on June 2nd, 2020, over 26 million people has posted a plain black square, hashtagging it either hashtag BLM or hashtag Blackout Tuesday. This was a Blackout Tuesday. And the BLM posts you see on your feed on social media, most likely the majority of the people who posted those posts are Gen Z. This is why I think that social media has made Gen Z acknowledge and want to take action and value racism. I think this shows how racism affects Gen Z to take action, and vice versa, how Gen Z affects racism. Now, I've been talking about how other people take action on racism, so now I bet you're wondering, how can you take action? Well, firstly, you should take action, and you might also be wondering if you should post something on social media like I was talking earlier. Well, yes and no. Well, yes, because I guess it is still a way of taking action, and it is still good. No, because there are many other ways to take action that is more effective. Okay, let me tell you some of them. So, one of the most common things you would see people doing when there's like a situation like this is donating. Now, donating can be hard because many people try to take advantage of situations like these by setting up fake charities and donation sites. So you would have to be careful. But donate to charities that you trust. I would recommend Amnesty International, for example, and Unite for Change. You can also donate at companies, which is kind of unlikely, but if you find a donation box in public for racial equality, I would say go for it and donate. Now, I might not state the purpose clearly, but if you find it, I think you should go for it. Okay, another way to take action is protest. Two things about protest. First, you could join protests, and second, I will explain later, so joining protests, you could join protests, and yeah, it's kind of self-explanatory, but on some places it's more uncommon for protests to happen than other places. But for example, on June 14, 2020, there were over 3,500 protesters for BLM in Tokyo. Now you could join protests like these, and you could make a little poster and use it. Now the other thing about protests is helping the protesters. Now you could bring food and water to help the protesters there. So the third way to take action is to sign petitions. Now, there are many websites you could go to sign petitions. I would recommend petition sites like iPetition or change.org. For those who don't know what a petition is a way of getting your voice heard, a request asking the government or the people in charge to take action on something, and you go to people to sign it. Now, another way you could take action is by educating yourself. Yeah, it might sound kind of weird. So there are many ways you could do this by educating yourself on racism. For example, you could watch documentaries and movies on racism to improve your knowledge. I don't want to list because I haven't really watched any movies about racism, but there are many movies that you could find online. And another thing is reading articles and books of racism. For example, I read the book Dear Martin by Nick Stone, and I would actually recommend anyone to read that book. It's a pretty good book. Yeah, another way is to watch videos on racism to improve your knowledge. But I kind of didn't want to add this because, like videos, there are many videos and many of them isn't that professional and good. But if you think that it's a professional one, then I would say go for it. In concluding, how did social media affect your perception towards racism for you to form an opinion? What about the next generations? What factors of this generation do you think will be affecting the future generations? Will it be social media again? If so, how? Thank you.